on, cartoon. Yeah. What's up, Doc? Hey, guys. Just having an eventful weekend. Having an eventful Saturday. How are you guys doing? It says 0 in the chat, and that's okay. I see 2 that are in the chat, so my streams never match up with what my screen's ever telling me in time. So hello to Model Misfits, and hello to Triple C. Good to see you guys. Sorry if the mic issue hasn't been resolved at this point. I'm just still buying all the stuff I need for the house, and what's left goes to the studio right now. But today's the day where my ex-wife and my son pack up all their stuff, and by Monday all of that slides in here till March, and then I can chill. So today we are doing the live as per the last format I talked about, but I should show you in the background. I'm in my backyard today because I didn't feel like being inside. Can't smoke inside, right? We got 2 big shows Canada really likes out here. Hockey Night in Canada and Our Worst Driver. Here's the Legion parking lot behind me has set up a driver circuit. So I thought that would be some fun background. We can watch some of Canada's worst drivers drive around while I talk about the 3 figures from 82 that were going around. Okay, well, I'm glad the sound quality hasn't hit me and bit me in the ass right yet. So just to recap the week, guys, you've seen I've done reviews on, the Stinger. I got that. We are getting them in Canada. You guys are starting to get them in the States now, I think. They're starting to show up on your orders or en route, or some of you might have gotten them. We just got our initial pre-order. I haven't seen any on shelves yet, which means that it's probably coming because the pre-order commitment's been filled. I've heard there's a couple on the other side of the city that are sitting on the shelf. Eventually, I think I need another Stinger because I want to do a custom on one, but I got to get some other customs out of the way. And that's really what I've been doing. I've been finishing up Grievances Prize. That thing's almost done now, finally. Now that I was able to break out the airbrush and get the parts I needed and finish some ideas I had for that. So I should be doing a video soon on Grievances Prize. That being said, soon for me is still a state of flux, but we are almost at the finish line. But you saw me do a review on the Night Creepers the other day. A figure that really surprised me, actually. Jesus, left his backpack there. I was actually surprised at how really kind of cool these guys actually were. These were one of the better figures out of the wave, I thought, but they're looking like they're going to be more than available. I don't know what they're like in your areas down in the States right now, but in Canada, if I need another one of these, I can find them pretty easily, and I thought that's pretty interesting for a troop build the way it is. So I did a review on that. I did a review on Doc, and we're going to have a review on Torch coming very soon. I've been sitting on this one for a while. I've pretty much got the wave done with the exception of Low Light and Spirit right now, and I think I didn't order the Pulse exclusives. I thought I had Wreckage and the Tiger Paw secured, but apparently I did not. So eventually I'll hunt those down. But that's a lot of backlog with the wave, and including some of the classic stuff that I've had sitting in my collection since Joe Fest. Mindbender, I still haven't shown that, but I've done that in the form of a lab. Like I'm doing a lab, and of course, like everyone else, I also have to review this guy, right? I have him. Thank you very much, Down South 77, for making that happen so quickly on those pre-orders. Yeah, I was able to secure one. It showed up the other day. Now, Canada shipping is something that, it just is what it is. I have to pay more when I ask people for stuff from the States, and I'm always happy to pay them the bonus, but that is part of the game, guys. I can't complain about the pricing when I'm willingly going into it and saying, like, I could go without this, but I really want it. That want has a price value. So the shipping and handling is where I pay a lot of that price handling to get things to Canada, right? Yeah, 3 Night Creepers. I think I might get a third just to have that second head option of the original Ninja Force variant. The one that I don't like, I think he looks like I said in the video, a Metroid video game character. Wasn't a big fan of that head, but I can see why people like it. I see its appeal, and it's definitely not the Ninja Force body variant, like the colors, right? So this is its own thing. So, yeah, I underestimated how much I'd like that figure for sure. Doc, I kind of knew I was gonna like no matter what. Jinx, yeah, Jinx was underwhelming, and I appreciated it because I'd said before, Jinx was a very simplistic kit, and maybe that's what we needed the designers to have, was just a kit that was very simple to throw together. There wasn't a whole lot to it. And then later in the line, or actually earlier in the line, I guess, because Jinx is 124. 121 Night Creeper got the abundance of kit and consideration at that same price point. So I see a balance between Jinx and the Night Creeper as far as plastics and intents and just overall design effort, right? But so far, the standouts I think have to be Torch, have to be Doc. Those are the two standouts I'm seeing. And then the real surprise is the Night Creeper for me. Those are just first impressions, right? So another thing I wanted to show you guys. Oh. He's going to be fine. He's turning towards me. No, another thing I wanted to show you guys was something else Aaron threw in that package for me with my dock and my thermos that I left behind in Georgia, by the way. That's where most of my shipping and handling went from. What I ended up getting from him, and I forgot them there, and he sent them to me, was he had developed these, not developed, but found these files for 3D printing. Him and Loki, I think you were involved in that as well. Model Misfits, if you guys aren't, if you're watching the replay and you're not aware, Model Misfits is a 3D printer friend that we've met on the channels over the last year, named Loki Wartooth by his other titles. And he's been providing us with a lot of 3D print education and fun, and ordering. So I think this is where Aaron got the print, but the Gatling inserts for the drone for scrap iron, I painted those up real quick because I was already working with a lot of red and black lately. So I did those up for mine. Sorry, I'm getting a message in Aaron. Yeah, right on. Aaron wants to remind everybody today, by the way, and same as Down South 77, who couldn't join us today. They had their weekend plans. Wanted to remind you that if you're interested in the ramen bread van, that thing is coming up for order, I think, tomorrow. And that thing's going to be the fastball that nobody expects because they're saying they're going to have that thing out by January. It's a well-priced vehicle, but it will need some art skills and customization skills for a lot of us, right? The interior, just like the Vanguard, is not completely done. It's one color. Actually, I think it's not even... the Vanguard is done simplistically, one color prints, but I mean there's paint in there, wherein the bread van does not. The exterior of the bread van is where you have the options, but that's going to be coming up for order soon, just letting you guys know. And I loved that, and these were such a simple thing to put in. This is all it is. And so Aaron used this. You'll see this if you go check out Aaron the Toy Enhancer. He's presented these before. That other one's a tighter fit. He's presented these before, but if you see, he's used these in another scaled project that he's done that you're going to start seeing me do more of in the future. I'll show you some projects about that. Yeah, this one's a very tight fit. I had this in there. I just got to sand the back end of it down a bit. But he used these on his Delta 17 boat conversion he made. He made a boat for his Delta 17, which is an O-ring figure line from the guys over at, Toy Connections. Ken from Toy Connections, Steve, and the guys over at 5x5 Comics. Delta 17 is a great little toy line. Everybody's become very aware of it. It's kind of like following in the footsteps of Joe with their own thing. But he's shown off these cannons before. And I also have a claw that Aaron gave me of his 3D print that I'm trying to get assembled. I've also been priming that because, like I said, with the airbrush going, I've been able to get a lot of priming done, and I needed to prime some stuff to finish off with Grievance's prize. But here's some other things we primed up. You saw this in the background of one of the photo shoots of the Dreadnoughts. I'm working on a Dreadnought truck. This is just the base, but that was just me expending paint. Like, oh God, I don't want to waste this paint. Grab that gray thing. Before I knew it, I had a Dreadnought project on there, right? So there we go. Just getting caught up in the chat. Yeah, those guns, okay. And then Triple C and you guys good. Yeah, I love the airbrush thing. I had mine going, it broke, but mine was a top feed. And with airbrushes, I had limited exposure. It was something I had learned about in high school and on college. I didn't really get the feel for it. I much preferred brush mediums and sculpting. And getting into customs, even when I was doing 40K tabletop, I wasn't touching an airbrush. But when I got into doing 6-inch customs, the airbrush, and especially when I was doing Hot Wheels, the airbrush became necessary. But it turns out I much prefer a bottom feed drum, like a bottom feed bottle. So I bought a new airbrush and I've been rocking that thing like crazy. So I said I was going to do some dioramas and stuff on the 3 3/4 line. Again, burning through some of my red and gray, getting things ready for those dioramas from shit I picked up at the thrift store. So we're going to have a little city street at some point, right? I've got a few of these structures and that'll be my 3 3/4 backdrop. And that's just me burning off the paint after I worked on a 6-inch to just start working, just something to dry brush after that. So Legends series, my buddy, we got you in here. So yeah, you're going to see some 3 3/4 displays and dioramas and conversions as we go, because that airbrush is humming now. And because we are getting so close to being done with Grievance's prize, that I'll finally be able to shift focus back to doing conversions and things like that. And I learned a lot in doing Grievance's prize. And it's one of those things where that was ambitious to want to do a custom figure and package for him and everything like that. And as a result, I also kind of committed another one to somebody else. But what I realized is I really didn't know much about Grievance's army until I watched a few videos, and it organically grew into something a little bit bigger than what Grievance and I had discussed. So I'm hoping he enjoys this prize. I really do. It is. I'll spell it out for you guys. I had to make some concessions. I haven't had any time to draw. Drawing is getting, and all this. So I did promise him some original art. I can't necessarily execute on. So what I ended up giving him is I'm creating the second character as we speak, but he's getting 2 custom characters. He'll get a brand new character. I'll pick him up before I mail the package off. He'll get all the other custom stuff, but he's also getting a vehicle. I had to put in a little vehicle for him as well, and that's where a lot of the problem solving went at. So I was happy to kind of boost that prize up, because unfortunately I had to take some time. And I think Grievance understands I didn't see this divorce coming, really. It just was. And I've been pretty flexible about everything, but I mean, overly flexible with his prize, which he is owed. I just don't think it would have made a difference in that army build contest. I really don't, but I am really looking forward to sending this his way when it's done. All right. So we got Woody Triple Deuce over here, and thanks very much, Legends. Yeah, these will get dry brushed and everything. And like I said, you can pick things up like this at thrift stores for like a song, like $5 US probably. And they'll fit nicely on the shelf that I have. I have a long shelf in my studio that I just was like, I have all these classified ammo crates on there that I don't want on there. I was like, that would be perfect for a street. So I'm going to make a street. Yeah. And Woody, you almost have 500, brother. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Okay. So today, for you guys, while we do Canada's Worst Driver in the background and you guys watch, I did say we were going to stay to a topic for these lives. So last week during the live, I said we were going to talk about Flash. With that, we'll talk a bit about Grand Slam, because they're kind of so similar. And we're going to talk about the Cobra Infantry and the officer, the trooper, all that. And we'll talk a little bit about that launch pad. Now, I'm not bringing up slides or anything, because it's just a casual discussion. It's really not the focus of doing the lives, or just that subject that you want to get out here. Because I don't want to do a long live today. I have really kind of committed myself to helping those guys pack up their stuff and move it into the house. So I do want to get to that, but notice I took the whole morning to let them work on it, right? So, oh geez, I missed a lot of chat here. Okay, you're gonna start a castle. Oh, great. Okay, castle grayscale wall. That'll be awesome, man. Yeah, for real. Like a wall. That's what I want to do once everybody's out, is dedicate a wall in my living room to just toys. Forget just the studio. I'll spread it out through the house. I live by myself, right? I'm going to keep it that way. My son understands. He lives with me too, half the time. So, um, yeah, so let's just talk a little bit about Flash for a second because we know this one's coming, right? He's on his way. We have the confirmation and the fact that they basically said Flash will come, and Grand Slam will come as well, right? And with those, the other part of confirming evidence is what was standing in the way is usually the available parts and kit and molds and whatnot. But with Glenda coming, they've already used the kit they would use for Flash. They've used for Glenda, which is the laser pack and backpack, right? So let's just get up there, Masters. Yeah. Happy Crusty Crow. Thank you very much. Yeah, so what we know about Flash is always based off that file card. That's the rule of my show. If it doesn't have a file card, it's open for interpretation. But if it has a file card, that's your starting area, right? Because these things were written back in the 80s, so they're outdated pieces of information that we use as a reference. And from there, we can see what classified in the modern era has really focused on and adjusted left or right of that, right? So, yeah, good. You guys keep doing business while I ramble on. So Anthony Gambello, so I think he's Italian American, right? His primary specialty is infantry, and his secondary is electronics. Okay, so he's from Lodi, California, and I know we do have guys in the California demographic that tune in their different time zone and everything like that. And I've never known about that place, Lodi, California, and I'm wondering where it is in proximity to one of the greater coastal cities or whatever, like LA or San Diego or San Francisco. I just never heard of it. He's a sergeant, I believe. Flash is highly skilled in many aspects of electronic technology and is capable of equipment repair in the field. Specialized education in electronics schools, chemical school, covert electronics, qualified expert M16, M1911A1, XLMR-1A shoulder-fired laser rifle. Flash is methodical and persistent. He has an innate and unshakable faith in the order of the universe. He's working on his master's degree in electronics engineering, but he's doing it at night. Okay, they put it in brackets, nights. Okay, so, it's closer to Stockton. Thanks, Bobby, and hi, Bobby. So closer to Stockton, California is where this guy's from. So, this is kind of why I wanted to do Flash, Grand Slam, and the jump pack all and get them out of the way. The closest thing we have to compare right now is Duster for the jump pad and everything. We think possibly that Duster pack will come with classifieds variant on that. We'll talk about that when we're talking about vehicle line. But it all falls under this guise of what the 80s thought the future of warfare would look like, right? They thought we'd be flying around with laser rifles. Now, I'm not saying they actually thought that, but the way that technology was being developed on a military scale in the real world, they were looking at things as, is a jetpack a viable option? They're playing with laser technology. Fast forward 40 years ago, we're using the laser technology to actually create the toys now, right? So, yeah. All right. The trivia is on the start. There we go. Yeah. So with the image we had of Flash and Grand Slam back in the day, again, this was the Hasbro, like the developers taking one reprint and making them in the same wave. You only had so many options on that OG-13 wave. Didn't I get a pack of which? A pack of cigarettes? I got a pack of smokes right here. But the jump pack, oh, you mean a jump pack? I don't think I got a jump pack from you, buddy. I got a lot of other packs, not a jump pack. I got my steel core packs and everything like that, but anyways, with Flash and them, the laser rifle was something that I think everybody knew wasn't going to be a thing in the future, right? It was just one of these neat tools. But the practical application of a laser rifle would be like a cutting instrument, high armor penetration kind of thing, or a laser designator for artillery, fast air, and things like that. So there is room in the classified line to do an updated Flash. But they're going to do the laser rifle, clearly, right? Now, the other part of it, yeah, that's what I thought, the jump pack. No, I didn't get one of those off you, buddy. It's okay. Not a big fan of jump packs, quite honestly. So the laser rifle that's going to be coming with Glenda, like I said, that's going to be Flash's laser rifle. It's going to have the hose. It's going to have the backpack. You'll probably have the same helmet visor set that we got with Duke in the retro line, and you'll probably have some, Sunbow rifle on top of that, or maybe they'll give him an M16, seeing as he is qualified on it, and he is an infanteer. He's just a secondary in electronics. This is the other part of that file card that just kind of trumps things up, right? I know a lot of guys that are into electronics. And I know a lot of guys that work at infantry units, so that are their tech trade guys. Not one of them would venture into laser suit specialization so casually as what we see with Flash. Like, it's just not a thing. But the laser thing for classified, I think, could be explored. So I am interested to see what they do with Flash. But here's the bottom line. I would like to see Flash from the 82 line with the Glenda laser rifle and everything like that, and the red quilting suit as a retro, not as a classified. As a classified, I think I'd want something more modernized, updated, and based on the potentials of where technology is going today. So that quilting armor would change to a different type of material. That rifle would probably take on a different form or role. And that's just how I see it with the classified line and where they develop things, because you have that retro safety net. Yeah, and Flash was one of the first ones I had as well after Breaker and Stalker. I believe Flash came in, and it was weird because I didn't really like having a gun that plugged into the back. It looked cool, but it was hard to, when it popped out, it was a frustration. So a lot of the time I didn't bother with it. Same as the visor, the flip down visor on the helmet. That thing was gold. That thing had the toenail clipper effect, right? If you graze that on the helmet wrong, fling, like a broken Australian boomerang where it just doesn't come back. It just flings off in some weird direction, and you have to go searching for it. So, okay, so Crow, would a laser rifle, in your opinion, actually be a good weapon for warfare? Yeah. I mean, depending on how we get with it. Like right now, we use lasers all the time in warfare. We use them as laser range designation. So the way the tanks fire is we spot the target, we give our command order, and we laser that target if we can find a spot on its hull or at the ground of it to get a return from that laser to tell us what the distance is to that target, right? So yeah, that's critical on the battlefield. Being able to laser the target and get that first round hit because you've got the right range for the right ammo is critical. Now, a cutting laser, I think that's more of an industrial thing. To focus a beam on something that's trying to move or fight you, I don't see much role for that. But all other aspects of laser technology are critical on the battlefield. Yeah, I lost all the visors too. Now we're adults. They're bigger. you can solve this. But the thing is, I think Flash on a retro line should come with that. But on a classified line, I think that helmet is also something that needs to be updated as well. What I'm looking for in the classified line is more of a standoff this time between Grand Slam and Flash. Can't have what we had in 82. That's fine for the retro line. Do that. They can be brothers, whatever. They can share gear. But in the classified line, I want to see that technology developed a little bit more thoughtfully. Hey, Mython. Yeah, good to see you, buddy. Glad to have you on board. We got 7 in the chat, guys. Thanks very much. I know if you trip on that like button, don't worry, nothing's going to break. So, yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to leave things with Flash, is just like the importance between a Flash and the classified line, I think it can't be understated. Versus the same level of importance for one in the retro line. And Grand Slam falls under that. Let's see Grand Slam's file card for a second. So James Barney is a laser artillery soldier. So he came with the Howl, that heavy artillery laser. I can't even call it a trailer. It was a set down piece locked into position by its clawed feet. And it would fire advanced lasers at apparently very stationary targets. And this might be what Triple C was also talking about. Is there a place for a Howl now in the modern warfare line for classified? And I don't know there is. So James Barney out of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, I think he's a slightly higher rank than Buddy. He's an artillery for primary and secondary electronics engineer. So the same premise. And his only file card difference really is his training is really the focus of the file card. All they say about his personality is he's soft-spoken and calm, just a bit shy, intelligent, loves to read escapist fantasy. So he's a sci-fi and comic book fan. Speaking of which, here's Grand Slam right now.
That's what they call me.
So I didn't think I was getting a drop by, but I love that I did. So Bobby's here. How you doing today down south?
I'm all right. Just trying to get up and get the day going.
Yeah, and you're not out to the trailer today, I see.
No, not this weekend. Probably going to go next weekend. It's Labor Day for us. So
right on.
We've got Monday a week off for Labor Day, and I took Tuesday off with it. So we got good weather. I'll go next weekend.
Yeah. Which day is Labor Day this year? It's
Monday. Right? It's Monday the 2nd.
The 2nd. Okay. Yeah. It's always right there. In Canada, that was always the first day of school. It was always between the 2nd and the 4th, right? You'd have Labor Day, right? And then like pretty much first day of school somewhere right after that. And unfortunately, that was always on my birthday because I'm on the 3rd. So my birthday presents, I could always I didn't even have to unwrap them. I'm like, binder, pencils, new clothes, one toy.
Right. Yep. Right. Yep. Here you go. Here's something to take the pain away.
Just because we want you to feel like it's your birthday, there's a joke. It's not school supply week.
Right.
Yeah.
Spent so much money on school supplies.
Yeah, exactly. And I imagine that's what a few of the guys in the chat might be doing. If you're a dad right now, maybe some of your Joe budget's going to your kids and school supplies. That's possible. I feel for you if that's the case.
I'm sure it is. They go back. We started going back early. It got earlier and earlier every year. Like we used to go back to school when I was in school here. We usually went back like the week of my birthday. My birthday was last week, so we would go back the week of my birthday, and that always sucked. It's like we'd go back a lot of times like 2 days before my birthday, and usually like they'd go back and we'd go a day, and then like on a Thursday or a Wednesday, and then you'd have the one day, and then you'd have the next 2 days off, and then the next week was the full week of school. So once or twice it actually fell on my birthday, and that sucked.
Oh, I hear you, man. And because like I think our birthdays must be right parallel with each other, like very close, eh?
Yeah, mine was the 18th, and actually yours is right around the same time Pop Blenders is. His is coming up.
That makes sense. Yeah, bunch of Virgos. But my wife and I did a mathematical equation, right? We read the article, so we scientifically developed our kid, like Mindbender and his wife, and went, well, if we want our kid to have every advantage of school, his birthday should be right where they drew that line for what grade he'd be in. So like he was always the youngest of that age group in his classroom, right? To just try and give him those little extra few months. But yeah, and also so his birthday presents wouldn't end up being school supplies.
Yeah. Man, look at Crow tactical planning all the way back then.
Oh, that's right, man. We were and we still are. My wife and I, or my ex-wife, my separated wife, we are an amazing planning team when it comes down to detail oriented. Like she went right up the chain, right? So we like to work those skills. So Sean Jones has joined us. How you doing, Sean? Good to see you there. And Lunchbox Killer, of course, joined us. So we have 11 in the chat, and I know you guys followed down south in here, and I appreciated it. You left the door open, buddy. I appreciate it.
That's all right. I was born in a barn.
There we go. So I went over just the couple of reviews I did this week. I managed to eke them out yesterday. And then I talked about Flash a little bit and Grand Slam a little bit. But before I get on to the Cobra guys, what's your week look like? What have you been doing that you want people to know is out there right now? I'm going to give you the full screen for a second, just so I can do one thing. And you can recap your week for us.
It's basically sucked. It's just other than it being a 4-day week because I took Monday off for birthday, and I was just trying to get through the week. We did Sevens Wild with Pop Blender on last Wednesday, and last night I was on for a little while with Frostbite's GI Joe Repro.
Oh,
Yeah, he's moved his time where he's going to be doing a show um, Friday nights for us, I think, if he keeps that time slot. And last night was the first one that he did and asked me to be on, and we talked about what Joes we would choose to make up a Predator team.
oh, that okay. So I saw it up there. It was the what if. I didn't even notice it was a live. I thought it was a video, and I was gonna watch it later.
Yeah, we were live for about 2 hours last night. So it was a pretty good show. I've got to watch your two videos. I hadn't had a chance to yet. I usually listen while I drive and then glance down, you know that old thing.
Yeah.
I got some reviews I'm trying to get out this weekend. I got to get them filmed. So that's what I'm going to be working on late tonight and tomorrow. Get that dude right there.
Oh, you got him with the unicorn. Right on.
No,
My one.
My first Deadpool figure.
I have not bought a Deadpool yet. I bought that Wolverine, the muscle shirt first Wolverine from that line that they were doing for the movie, and I thought that was enough. But because he fits so well with the classified shelf, just being as plain as he was without the yellow. But Deadpool's a different story, like he doesn't. No matter what shelf you put him with, he's always Deadpool. He doesn't fold in well. He's a fourth wall breaking guy, and I think that's the appeal is he fits on every shelf anyways. So I haven't found the right one, but that one you got is the new one.
If you can find this one, I'm very pleasantly surprised with this figure. Now I'm sure it's been reissued. I don't know. They've redone these figures a bunch of times, so I don't know how many times this particular one has been repainted. And there's another one coming out in I think November that is the one for the movie, like the one the Deadpool and the Wolverine. Mm-hmm. I don't know enough about the Legends to know how many times those guys have been repainted, but all I can speak on is this figure is a good figure. If you can find it, it's a worthy Deadpool figure.
Well, I think I'll probably end up picking that one up because I've seen it at GameStop and Walmart. Like it's there, but they do it fast. Like it just it's there, and then if you go 2 days later, maybe there's one, maybe there's none.
Yeah, I talk about it in the video. Like I've got it filmed, the Deadpool. I've got filmed. I just have to get it edited. It'll be late tonight or tomorrow before it's up. But I talk about that, about how they're showing up and how hard to find it is right now. And I've actually seen the Wolverine in Walmart's twice, but Deadpool, and there's also the Superior Spider-Man is in this wave too.
Oh, okay, yeah, and that's another one I had an interest in. Like, I'm not a big Doc Ock was Spider-Man fan.
Yeah,
but the paint apps on that thing were just that head. If that works on any other Spider-Man figure in the line, right there, it's worth it to me.
Yeah, and that's another one I've got to hunt down. Is I've got to get a good Spider-Man figures if I'm going to buy a few Legends. I like Spider-Man, so I got to get a Spider-Man. So if I find that Superior one, I may buy it. Although I do prefer the more classic look for him.
Yeah. So one of the things I was telling these guys also, because Spider-Man, this is another reason why this particular item is going to be so hot. Spider-Man, that New York City villain, like you got that big ass Kingpin, which I saw on the shelves. Like up here in Canada, that's a $50 figure. And I never realized just quite how big it actually was, even watching the video till I saw that figure. And I heard you say, well, who the hell am I putting this guy with? Like, right? So Superior Spider-Man would be one of those, but yeah, we have a classic Kingpin, but Superior Spider-Man is more of a newer image of Spider-Man, right? So you want your classic rogues, but you know what's going to make an amazing background to that? I know you're going to end up getting the new Punisher.
Yeah, I ordered it.
Yeah. right? So Punisher Bushwhacker 2-pack, that classic 80s Frank Miller vibe kind of
Yeah,
thing.
War Journal.
Little bit of Silvestri in that image, right? A little
Mm-hmm.
bit of Romita. The bread van from Ramen coming up for order tomorrow. You let me know. Aaron jumped on and he was like, if you need one, Crow, we'll hook up. I'm like, perfect. But I know for a fact you've got to be ordering at least one for your Punisher. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. I'd like to get two. I don't think two's within my budget right now, even though, we've talked about it before. I think they're supposed to be like, with the team stuff, I think it's going to be like 125.
Yeah.
He didn't post the final price yet. I just woke up this morning and I follow Ramen on Instagram, and he posted, and he actually made another post after the one that I sent you where he shows the white one.
And that's the one I'm curious about. I know
It looks good.
One, and I'm thinking I might go to the white because what I want for mine is just a generic rusty 80s van, just anybody's van, right? But it's doing that interior, I think, is going to be the fun. You know what I mean?
I just hope, for guys that are going to do that, I hope it comes apart pretty easy with no really tight tabs and stuff.
And that's the thing. But again, for me, that's the excitement of the airbrush, because once you burst an airbrush in there, so long as that glass pops off, everything else can be dry brushed evenly. It's having access, right? And I don't know if you watched Punk's review on the Vanguard by Valaverse. They're
Yes.
Yeah. So then that's one of the things I was saying to Punk the other day was just like the lack of paint inside that is solvable for guys who do customizing, but you have to be able to take this chassis apart, right?
Yeah, if you can take it apart, I mean, it's even for somebody like me that's the cruxus of the word novice at stuff like that. If you can get it apart without tearing anything up, you should be able to do a little something with it anyway.
Absolutely. So
that's one thing I've got to get's an airbrush kit. I've got to try to learn and practice with that.
Yeah, it was a skill that I didn't really focus on when I was going through college and everything. I was really focusing on penciling and inking and writing and painting. But the airbrush, there's a preference involved. Either you like the top feed or you like the bottom feed. And I found I really like the bottom feed. But cleaning it is, you got to constantly keep it clean, right? So
that's gonna be the hard part for me if I get one, and that's why I can't invest a whole lot of money in one.
Yeah.
Loki, I had this conversation months ago with Loki Wartooth, and he actually recommended which one I should get to start with. And I actually had somebody else I talked to about it, and they were like, oh yeah, that's the one that I've got. Like, I've got a couple of them, but I use that one all the time, and it's relatively inexpensive.
It's probably the Iowata, which is probably what I'm using.
Probably. It sounds right.
Yeah, I bought an Iowata top drop, like the one with the cup on the top. I found I was constantly having jams with that. No matter what I did to thin the paint, what type of paint, I was constantly having to clean it too much. But with the bottom feeds, I can use just different bottles and just switch them out, including blasting cleaner through it. And I find that keeps it running even more. Just going to go back to the chat for a second. The Tiger Paw. Yeah, I was just telling the guys I found out GameStop didn't order my Tiger Paw. They didn't have access to it. The guy got confused and was telling me about the 2-pack. So I'm with you.
Oh, what a punch in the dick to think you're getting a Tiger Paw, and they're like, here's Roadblock and Tripwire.
Yeah. That's what I was like, so when is that coming? He's like, well, you already picked it up. I'm like, that wasn't the Tiger Paw. He's like, right here, Tiger Force. I'm like, that's Tiger Force 2-pack. Anyway, but yeah, it is what it is. You have to have these little objectives. And like I was saying to Punk the other day, I don't mind. I can go without these things a little while because I do plan on going to Joe Fest again next year. And it's nice to have these little target objectives to aim for, right? There's nothing worse than having a lot of money in your pocket and not one goal. You're just open to everything. You're gonna kill yourself. Have some objectives.
Yeah, that is. I don't find myself in that position a lot, but the times that I do, it's like, well, I got all this money and nothing I really, really want, and the stuff I really, really want is nowhere to be found.
Yeah. Wraith Mace there. He just listed you some good characters to go with your retro Kingpin there.
Yeah, I've that Hammerhead and Tombstone I may pick up. I still see Tombstone. He's pretty easy to find around here. I like him. My thing with those guys is I'm not I'm not gonna buy characters I don't really know when it comes to the Marvel stuff. Not that they're not good looking characters, but I'm not gonna buy Marvel figures that I don't really have some kind of affinity for. That's why I waited so long to buy Deadpool. I don't care. I don't like Deadpool, or at least I haven't until I finally watched all three movies. And now I like at least the movie version. So I'm like, I got to get a Deadpool just because the character, at least in the movie, and that's the one I know, I like him. So some of those Spider-Man guys and the other Marvel guys, they look okay and they're good figures. I just don't know enough about them,
Sure.
to buy them.
And I'm gonna do what I have always do. I'm gonna answer a problem you didn't pose with a solution you never asked for. But what I would recommend is if you wanted to find the right shelf guys to go around your Kingpin and not start buying comics just to research this, just go to JLS and watch a 20-minute read up on Kingpin and see which are the key characters that enter his life. You'll see Punisher, Daredevil, Spider-Man. You might see the Rose, you might see the Owl, but you won't see a lot. The core characters that are important to him, they're out there on the market. Somebody mentioned like the Hammerhead and Tombstone were mentioned. Those are two of his, mafia Oso types, right? They're all available in that line and they're cheap, right?
Yeah, they're all goon. They're all good goon, henchman figures. I just don't. They weren't in the comics that I read.
Right.
They're like, Daredevil, Spider-Man, Punisher. Yeah, I can pick those guys up to fight the Kingpin because that's what I know.
I think if you watch probably Daredevil Reborn coming up, when Disney starts pumping that out, I think a safe bet would be Kingpin, Daredevil, Elektra, Bullseye, Punisher. That core group, and that's everybody knows who they are, right?
Well, he's confirmed to be in it. The Punisher is. I'm sure Kingpin will be.
Yeah, and
Punisher's going to be in it.
Elektra's just one of those things where it's just like, if you got Bullseye, he needs to kill somebody. There's your Elektra.
Yeah.
I wanted to just address Wraith Mace's question right here. What do you guys think? As I am a huge Punisher fan, should he wait for the Mezco Rumble van or get the Ramen Bread van for his Punisher? And here's what I would say. The Ramen Bread van is coming up for order tomorrow. It's going to be at a very reasonable price from the sounds of things, and they are kind of assuring delivery by January. Between then and now, right? That van, you could stare at it, you could picture what you want for your Punisher, and then get ready and maybe buy the other van. What I would say is one from Punisher's past, one from Punisher's future. If you're a big Punisher fan, one from before it got shot up and another one he let get shot up. Have fun with both of them, Wraith Mace. You've earned it. Gotta say hi to Go ahead.
I was gonna say I kind of answered his question in the chat. Like that NECA van. I mean, who knows if they make it? Who knows when it's gonna show up? And it's probably going to be $300.
That's the other side too, right? You could probably get 3 bread vans for what a one NECA van might cost. Well, let's 2 bread vans for what one NECA van would cost.
And it will look great, but it is also NECA. Are you going to be able to play with it, or are you just going to be able to get it in a pose or two or a look or two and set it somewhere? Because if you mess with it too much, you're going to snap something.
Yeah, and Triple Z's asking, isn't it a bit smaller than? So I know the bread van will be made to the 6-inch, but I feel like the Mezco, wouldn't they make it to? That's a good question, because what is the normal Mezco scale? Is it 7?
Man, no, most of them are around 6. They vary, but they kind of hold around the 6-inch, the 112.
Yeah, that's
and.
good.
Ace Ramen did say in that post that it will be compatible with most 112 figures. So if you've got some larger, if you try to put 3 gung hos in there, you might not have a lot of room. But he shows in the post for the white version, he shows like 2 or 3 storm shadows in it.
Oh yeah.
So we know storm shadows gonna fit.
Okay. 3 times. And you know, like that 18 variant will have magnetized components to it, like door panels and a roof hood, like hood bar.
Yeah, and the KC lights, I think.
Yeah, all that stuff. They'll be magnetized to it, and that's going to get the heavier paint apps. But I think that one will cost a bit more, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw in the chat people are asking what's up with Grievance. I haven't seen him in a while, but you know, I know he probably a little frustrated waiting on my prize for him too. But if he hasn't been making videos and things like that, if you've been watching Grievance's channel, that's a guy that's dealing with real life. So maybe that's all it is he's just dealing with real life. And it's one of the things that maybe if you're most of you have YouTube channels, you guys see it as well as I do. Sometimes real life, you want to make videos and you just can't. And maybe there's not actually anything in your way but your own head. Who knows? But the time will pass and we'll see him again. I'm quite sure. All right. Well, let's take that gap. Now, I just finished talking about Flash. Did you have Flash when you were a kid, Darren?
I did.
You did? What did you think of him?
I thought Flash was cool. He was one of the only early figures that had any paint on him. You know, that had other than green and black and whatever color their hair was. So I always thought Flash was cool. Flash was hard to get here too.
Oh yeah.
Because I did not, like, I wasn't getting these guys in 82. I got my first Joes in 83.
Yeah.
So I probably did not have Flash until late 83 or 84 when I finally got Flash, and I did get a straight arm when I got him. But I always thought he was a pretty good standout amongst those first year of figures just because he looked so different. And out of all of those really early first guys, he was the one that was a little bit futuristic. You know, he was a little bit different.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, and we talked about that too. And so I don't know if you were listening when I was talking about, like, the beauty of a retro and a classified line is you could tackle Flash 2 ways. You can give us the old 80s interpretation of what a sci-fi trooper should look like with the lasers and the quilted armor, and then you can give us what 2025 pictures, laser technology, and everything to look like, and that, right? I just know that with that comes all the criticisms, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we got Aaron that joined us right on. So talked about Flash. We alluded to Grand Slam. Did you have Grand Slam? That was almost it was the exact same buck, right? Like,
I did not have Grand Slam. I never had Grand Slam. I don't think I ever picked Grand Slam up. I didn't have him as a kid.
Yeah.
And I don't think I ever got a Grand Slam with the silver pads.
No, and that was just it. So Grand Slam was a figure as a Canadian I had just heard of, right? And I'd seen him in catalogs. Seen him on commercials, things like that, and I was like, where is he? Silver padded Flash. For the longest time I thought he only came with the jump pack, but it turned out he came with the HAL, the heavy artillery laser, which was another one I never had. I had the Whirlwind, which we talked about in the comments here. That didn't come with anybody, but the HAL came with Grand Slam. And I think the HAL was probably the worst of the pieces because the play factor was so minimal with that thing.
Yeah, you couldn't really do a whole lot with it.
It was basically a stationary artillery piece that you stuck on the ground, and there she stayed. You know, it couldn't be towed and had to be helicopter dropped and all that other stuff. So
that's one I'd like to see them do, though, and modernize, especially with the Dragonfly coming.
The HAL?
With the cable. Yeah,
and that's just it, though. Like, you'd want to see it because you want to see what they do with it, and you can picture the cross compatibility with a HasLab. But if you got the HasLab out of the equation, where would Hasbro see the play factor with it, right? If you can't make it towable with their existing kits,
it would have to be something that came after the Dragonfly was in hand and modernized a little bit.
I think we will see some at some point. We'll see a HAL, right? But I keep going back to that image they showed of the Cobra Claw flying through the sky, and in the background was that GI Joe headquarters, which we now know Aaron has one. His buddy Edward, I think, hooked him up, and even Iron Ken has one now. And I think Hasbro's probably looking at that thing, thinking we could get it, we could do it, down the line somehow, some way. I think that's around the time we'll see HALs, stationary defenses for stationary pieces, right?
Yeah, possibly.
But the jump pad, that's where we're at now, because we have to talk about the jump pad. I'll close it on the Cobra Infantry. But we talked about the jump pad being a subject today. It's one I never had either. Did you? No. So what do we know about it? Like, I knew as a kid it was a jump pack and it was a landing pad, and that was about it. An elevated square plastic landing pad. Seems to be, if anybody in the chat had that and I'm missing some point of that, you can jump right in and say it was effing amazing or what a piece of crap.
It's not something that I think we're ever going to get in classified, because we got we've got the standard jet packs now.
Well, what about Starduster? Didn't they say they were going to try and do something about that? Like the cereal box fold out thing?
Yeah, but I mean, I think the jetpack he comes with is the same one, like the one that the Steel Brigade or Steel Corps or whatever we're calling them now, and who has like the Stalker coming with that? I don't remember, but anyway, I think it's that same one. Now that they've gotten us that one, I don't think there's a lot of value in trying to do a set that's got just a little bit bigger jump pack and the pad for it. Back then, it was a neat idea and they used them in the cartoon all the time, but I don't think it's something people would really pay for now to do. I
agree. Like, no, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It's just like, I'm agreeing, because it's when you said pay for now, that's the bottom line. Like, I don't know how everybody else sees it, but when I look at a hunk of plastic, I am doing like a mathematical calculation in my head of how much of this price is actually devoted to that plastic. And is that plastic something I actually want, or is it an accessory to what I wanted? That jump pad is an accessory as I see it. And the jump pack is not the high tag item it was in 84, right? The idea of needing a landing pad to use your jump pack is contrary to the idea of having a mobile jump pack unit.
Yes. Yeah, very much. And I think now that they know we're the ones buying most of this stuff, they're going to be like, well, we've already got, anybody that's bought multiples of those troop builders or any of the future figures they're going to package it with, they're going to like, I don't really see the point in having to have a pad unless they're going to do something with like make it way, way bigger, like, and have a seat belt, or a harness or something to strap them into it with when they put it on, rather than just a backpack bag. Unless they really bring it up to speed, I think the same thing, because they've already given us figures with the cool little blast effects for it. Or you just see Rafe, where you just pop it on, and go. And like I've got one posed up here on the top of the shelf. I've got one of the females crouched like she's getting ready to spring up in the air and take off. Like, you don't really need more than that with a jetpack.
No. And I mean, the jetpacks, I respect the jetpacks being in the line because they bring a play factor, they bring imagery, they bring whatever. You can elevate your characters because they're flying now. They don't have wings, they fly. The jet pad, though, just like you're saying, like, there's some storytelling to it, but you need to add to that thing to make it viable. Like, maybe we need to have accessories that go on to jetpacks. Maybe we need jetpack harnesses with like gunslings and things like that. And that would be what the pad would be. But it also occurs to me, if I was developing right now this line, I'd be counting all the pieces of like kit that G.I. Joe had that weren't mobile, right? Just stationary pieces like the watchtower, the ammo dump, the landing pad, and of course the headquarters, the how. And maybe I'd start looking at that formula, how to make this all a modular thing where maybe I do a HasLab where I build you the core component of a headquarters. But on the regular retail market, I release the launch pad, the HAL, and all these other little things that snap into that HasLab core, and you can build out a base. Like,
Yeah.
there's potential in all of this if you let your mind wander on it enough. But then it comes down again. Does it fit in the modernized classified line? Right.
Yeah. It's a good point. And I think that's something, if you kind of read between the lines a little bit with stuff they've said in some form, that's some of that stuff is coming. Like, like the checkpoint alphas or something like that. Just for an example, if you kind of listen to some of what they've said in their streams, like they're aware of, they want stuff people can play with and build worlds with, set up displays with, and stuff that fits on a shelf. So in my mind, all that translates to they're looking into bringing some of the smaller play sets to the line.
Exactly. And the smaller play sets is really where I think the focus needs to be for every other company but Hasbro right now too, right? So if you look at the success of how G.I. Joe built up over these years, now we're facing tidal waves when we used to face droughts of figures, right? Like it's overwhelming to the wallet right now. And as they get more ambitious, we start going with more HasLabs, larger vehicles, like multiple variants of these things coming along the wave, and more things on this scale and that price point. You look at a company like AWOC, Animal Warriors of the Kingdom, let's say, right? They're high price sets. Yeah. Oh, you got yours. Good for you. Can't wait to see you do your review on it.
It's gonna be at least the first part's gonna be good.
Yeah, I've got to get a second one. I want to do a custom now, but sorry, not to deviate. But if you look at AWOC, right, their highest price point sets right now are larger figures. Eventually, if they wanted to do anything in that world building aspect, I could see them starting with the small stuff, because if you watch Hasbro and see where their pitfalls are, you can hear that consumer going, we want smaller sets, we want more price achievement, like we want things for our shelf. So you can't understate the lessons that Hasbro is teaching every other company out there, right?
But Hasbro's also at a point where they can put just about anything out and we're going to buy it, and they know that. That's the problem. That's where the disconnect may be, is, they can put it out, and you can put a turd in a box and give it to me, and people are going to buy it up, and that's part of where I see a little bit of flaw in that. Maybe they know that we're going to buy it.
But that's the monkey's paw too, right? Because they also have to pay attention to both sides of the argument when they say we can put this out and everybody's going to gobble it up, and most of the people in the boardroom are like, "Yep, they will," right? Yeah. But you've got that one guy in the boardroom going, "Are you listening to the chatter around this?" Half of those people that you're counting on are saying they're waiting for it to go on clearance. They're not taking part of the initial pre-orders. That's the big one. That's your locked in money on the pre-orders. That's your sign of commitment. But if you're paying attention to the rabble, you're going to get a different picture entirely.
Well, if you look at from pre-order standpoint, like kind of what you just said, we're getting ready to see three of the most divisive characters in all of G.I. Joe come out this year. We're getting ready to see Nemesis Immortal and Raptor and Road Pig. And if you look now, like even on Pulse, which is famous for selling out of their own product, you can buy anywhere else, Raptor and Road Pig are available for pre-order. They have been ever since they sold out at first, but within like 4 days, they were back up. They haven't gone out since. So either the people that don't like them are not buying them in classified, or people aren't happy with them, or, this nonsense that they've been telling us about the lower production runs is nonsense. It's one of the two. I think we're only seeing it. We're only seeing that with vehicles. You can't count the once a man Cobra Commander because it's an exclusive that we're lucky to have gotten a shot at anyway.
Absolutely.
But with the vehicles, that seems to be where they are limiting quantity on. We're lucky
weird.
the Stinger was a general release.
And I'm glad, yeah, because really it should have been. The Vamp Mark II should also be at this point because they've proven their point. The demand for the Vamp is why this thing's so available now, right? And
yeah,
so they fix that. Now, going back and getting the Vamp is still the same punchline to the same joke that it was before. It's available. No, it's not. Now it's available. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Big Bad Toy Stores got it? No, they're gone.
You know? Oh, look at there. You got to be quicker than that.
Yeah, it's like that South Park, investing your money and it's gone. But with the Nemesis Enforcer, Nemesis Immortal, Road Pig, and what was the other figure we talked about? Raptor. The thing about those is Raptor, I think, is the safest among them because underneath it all, you have a standard buck, right? Like underneath all that wings and accessories, you're going to have a pretty standard sized buck. But with Nemesis and with the Road Pig, these are unique developed bucks. They're large. They're formed specifically for their character. What else are they going to get reused for? That's a gamble. Like you're gambling on one character and you're investing an entire mold system for that body. It's not just the head and the hands like a lot of these guys are. It's all of it, right? That's a gamble.
It's time for them to develop a new larger base buck anyway. Like we've got the roadblock buck, and that's pretty much it. That it's been used for several other figures. That big, huge, bulky, muscular. Bazooka for some reason had that same buck. So it's time for them to develop a new larger buck that they can use for whatever other figures that they come out with. I'll tell you one thing I can see them using that base buck for. Now, there's going to have to be overlays and stuff for it. Another figure that they could potentially use that large base buck for is Quinn the Eskimo.
For which buck?
The new one, the Road Pig, the big one, the beefy one.
Sure.
I could see them using that if they ever made us a Quinn figure.
I thought Quinn was smaller.
No, Quinn's huge.
Huge. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Yeah. So long as you can reuse it, that's great. There's some reassurances there, but if you can't think of anything off the top of your head, then you can maybe understand why Hasbro would be reluctant to put big numbers out of a kit that might not sell and might not even justify the mold it was made in, right? Like, so Mercer gets brought up. Mercer, you can almost be assured Mercer has to get name dropped at some point, right? And it falls into that. Is there another Sergeant Slaughter figure coming? Yes, of course there is. Sergeant Slaughter's Renegades, right?
I think there at some point, I think they're going to do a retro version of Sarge and give us the USA on the tank top, like the mail away.
Yeah. You would almost think his contract would assure it, right? Because the way the classified honors him and the way Valaverse he has a contract with them for different reasons, but the way that G.I. Joe, Transformers, all of it has a Sergeant Slaughter, yeah, you're right. Retro's got to get one for sure. I hadn't even thought about that. I just was thinking if you're going to get Mercer, you got to get Taurus and the other one.
Red Dog.
Red Dog, thank you. And then you would get a new Slaughter figure, probably.
I don't know. I think we would be more prone to just get Mercer than getting all three of them. Now, there's people that are definitely going to want all three, but they've got Mercer is in the comic. Mercer's in the new comic. So
and that's the big thing. If he's there,
and I definitely think we're going to get Mercer, Taurus, and Red Dog because they're not leaning into Renegades; they're leaning into Marauders. So I'm fine. I don't care if they make them or not. I like Taurus. Never really like Red Dog, but I'd be fine if they only made Mercer for me. There's people that love them. Fine. I hope they make them, but I don't know that I'll buy them.
Yeah, I mean, Mercer would make more sense than just leaving barbecue out there alone for his team the way they did. So my
Yeah.
big question is, which packaging would Mercer get, Cobra or Joe?
Yeah, that's the thing. Because they're not going to make it ambiguous.
Well, right now, the way they're kind of advertising with the comics, it looks like they're kicking him off at the start of things where he's Cobra. But I
Oh,
don't know.
he's definitely.
You know, is he
Yeah.
got a backstory where he had flipped, or are we just meeting him for the first time in this comic? Like, don't know.
Yeah. So I think this is probably the beginning of his backstory, just before he flips. If they even go with that, I mean, they're changing the whole lore for these comics. So maybe he doesn't defect, and maybe we get him as a Cobra.
Who knows? Who knows? Right? Like,
Maybe.
a lot of things to expect out of the classified line just based off what the comic might show us is coming, but
Yeah.
it's not an assurance that everything is. I mean,
I've got to pick up Destro 3 today, too.
Destro 3 and Scarlet 3 came out last week, and I missed that as well. I've got to pick those up. Those
I've got
ones,
Scarlet. I've read Scarlet. I hadn't got Destro. They come out a week or two apart.
yeah, it's a week.
Destro come out last week, I think.
And, you know, talking about the comics, before I close things out with the Cobra Infantry and Officer, just to talk because I have the figures here. With the comics, the way that they've been doing kicks, just so everybody sees it coming, all right? You have your G.I. Joe Real American Hero series right now. That is the hot item where we're talking classified a lot. Then you have your sub stories, which started with Cobra Commander and Duke and is now moving into Scarlet and Destro, right? In November, it's all consolidated again. G.I. Joe is starting a new series. All right, so the number one issue of that is coming out, and word has it, it's gonna have like something like 20 some odd fucking variant covers, right? So if you're gonna be
There's a
that
surprise.
Pop Blender is probably gonna have to mortgage something. But you know, just to give you a heads up, if you're clamoring to get all these issues, just hey, and you're having a hard time, trade paperbacks always come out once a series is done. You can get your Duke, you can get your Commander, you can get Scarlet and Destro that way. But if you want to get in front of the series, just remember, come November, issue number 1 is coming out, and that's where you'll probably want to jump in.
I got a comment on that real quick. I don't want to interrupt you, but it directly pertains to that. I brought this up on, I think, Pop Blender and I's Sevens Wild, one of those episodes. That upcoming Skybound, the new G.I. Joe Energon Universe 1. If you get on Skybound and you register with Skybound and make an account, you can submit an image to be in one of those comics. Like if you got a picture of yourself holding your favorite Joes or Cobras, you can find that on the Skybound website. I've done it. And I think you have to have the pictures in by, I think it's like September 12th or something like that. But if you go to Skybound's website and it like you have to pick a side, you have to choose G.I. Joe or Cobra.
Well,
that's the gimmick. So, but you can submit a picture and they're supposed to be running every submission in that new comic. I don't know if it's all going to be in the same issue. I can't see how, but either way, I thought that was cool that they're doing that. And it's kind of like what Carson did with the front and back cover of the omnibus, where he had people, the early backers, sending pictures of themselves as kids with G.I. Joe stuff. Yeah. It's similar to what he did with that. And of course, I missed that. So I wanted to make sure I got in on this. So if that's something people are interested in, and also you are supposed to get an email to let you know which comic and presumably maybe which cover your picture is going to be in. That may be how they split that up, is by having so many covers.
Wow. I mean, wow. You got to think about that. Just even on a marketing level, that's brilliance, right? To get your consumers to connect with you that way.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
It is. It's a great way to kick something off and spark an interest that might have been like lukewarm to start with.
And it's a good way to get everybody that does it buy 2 copies.
There you go. And and for some of the people that might be on the fence about it, but had collected comics their whole lives, I still remember in the 80s sitting down writing letters to the editor at Marvel because something in X-Men gave me a question or pause for concern, and I wanted to talk to the people at the company about it. And they'd have in the back of every comic letters to the editor. And if you saw yours in print, that was an amazing feeling, right? I've had
Yes.
one show up in a comic before. And so this kind of goes back to that nostalgic feel again, right?
Yeah.
Hey, we got Frank Dumonio here. Right on, Frank. Just popping in. That's all right. We're closing
So,
right.
Frank.
Um, hey, so to finish off with the motif of the way the lives are right now, I just want to talk a little bit about the Cobra officer and the Cobra infantry and assaulters there, like the ones that came out in the OG 13 that we passed by. Right?
Blue shirts.
The blue, the true, right? So the file card for the officer, you know, again, their primary infantry, secondaries, artillery, and intelligence, meaning they can call for fire and figure out which target's probably the right one. All they read does is Cobra officers of frontline fighters who lead Cobra attack units into battle. Many are believed to be operating as spies at defense plants, nuclear power facilities, etc. All are martial arts experts and masters of disguise, deceit, and demolitions. Talks about their weapons calls, and the Cobra officers are dedicated to destroying G.I. Joe's way of life. Be wary, they're dangerous, right? I'm not going to bother reading the troop card. This was our enemy back in the 80s, right? For a lot of guys who joined the line, they didn't meet these guys. They met Python Patrol or they met the Iron Grenadiers. But guys like you and me, we met the Blues, right? I hadn't read this file card since I was a kid, right? When they talk about the, where is it? Spies at defense plants, nuclear power plants, etc. They're all masters of disguise, deceit, and demolitions. Which Cobra unit would you think I was talking about?
That sounds much more like Crimson Guard.
Right? But these predate Crimson Guard. So Crimson Guard basically took what these guys were doing and said, we're going to do it more professionally and we're going to draw more eyes to our uniformity, right? These guys, to me, were always just the basic infantry. There was nothing covert about them. Like, what's covert about the uniform and things like that? My light is terrible right now.
I think maybe that's something they realized later when they decided to do Crimson Guard, and Crimson Guards are supposed to be all loyal to Cobra Commander. Those guys are just dudes that, like, I feel like maybe the Crimson Guard were selected out of the most worthy of those guys.
Yeah. I always thought corporate espionage, MI6 kind of guy.
Yeah. But that file card, reading it 40 years later, hits a lot harder for those guys, right? Knowing they could be working at your local nuclear power plant or power grid or working in a food processing plant, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like the global terrorism is a lot more serious now than we ever took it in the 80s, but we should have been taking it that way. I mean, the rest of the world was dealing with it, you know? Yeah, I always just kind of laughed at the evolution of the Cobra Trooper, and then what we see everybody reacting to right now, right? We love our troop builders, don't we? We love them so much. I don't know.
I love them so much, and buy two of the ones I don't like.
Yeah, and basically, you know, I think we're dealing with generations of houses where people are going to have to explain why their grandfather had so many action figures in the living room, the kitchen, and fucking everywhere because of troop building. Nobody's settling for less than 5 these days. But with the blue ones, that was my biggest first problem with collecting classified, coming in late and wanting to achieve those blue troopers because they had already come and gone in the line by the time I had joined, which was around Rock and Roll and Shipwreck and Torpedo. Right?
Yeah.
And now we have the retro coming of the Cobra Infantry, and there's negative feedback about it. And I kind of wanted to know, does the color tone of the Cobra Infantry that's coming to the retro, it's going to be a little bit softer blue than this. Does that bother you as a blue purist, for lack of better terms?
Um, it doesn't bother me because it's in the retro line. If it was in the main classified line, it would bother me. But the retro line is supposed to be the more, original real American hero look, as well as more kind of cartoon oriented for the colors.
Mm.
So it doesn't bother me. I only ordered one and I don't plan on opening it.
Oh yeah,
It's going to go for my carded collection for the retros. I don't need. Do I wish all of those guys had have originally been that color blue and then maybe darken the officer a little bit? Yes, but I'm not going to go back and buy like 5 of that dude. I know a lot of people are. I
yeah,
like it, but I'm just getting one and I'm going to open it. If I didn't have any, yeah, I'd probably buy several of that guy. But I see what you're doing, Hasbro. Like I'm buying one and I do like it. So
yeah,
it doesn't bother me because it's retro. If they released it boxed, I would be a little ill.
yeah, yeah. I could see why they would do this. The force a mass purchase for the troop build satisfaction. Like, yes, we've given you a different color. Now you have to deal. You can't deal with just one. But I heard somebody really go off on it. Like, this is the stupidest shit
Oh,
ever and everything like that. And I'm like, yeah, and yet money will slide across the table over it because money can be had over it. But
hmm,
if it's going to help you feel better about it, I'm just going to remind people that there's varying types of officers in every military. There's varying positions
yes,
and there's varying uniforms. You can find often a contingent of people in mixed dress uniforms that all look very similar to each other, but different tones. This guy could be any kind of different officer. Maybe he's the FUFAC, maybe he's the quartermaster, maybe he's the transport coordinator, who knows? Maybe he's the battle captain or maybe he's the ops. Like,
that's how I look at it with some of these blue shirts and some of these repaint guys. Like that Cobra officer, I have one
mhm,
because he's an officer. All the other blue shirts I have are underneath that guy. As
right.
awesome as that figure is, and that is one of the best figures in the line, I
Mhm.
only have one because I only need one. That's why I buy 2 of all of those type guys. I've only got one of him because he's the officer character.
One of
If I,
these for
yep,
every 5 to 10 of the others.
yes,
Yeah.
and if I find some more of them like dirt cheap somewhere someday, I would pick them up maybe because it's a really good figure. And if I ever get enough blue shirts, like you said, I'll have one guy leading 5, one guy leading 3, whatever. But to me, that guy, even though he's nameless, he's almost an individual character to me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's and that's what the customization, the reason I would want a troop build is so I could have a section of infantry under a standard officer, and then I could have a unique section of infantry over a customed officer. Like somebody's not wearing his mask, do something unique with them, but then you get into expensive, right? But the justification for your retro could be something as simple as give it a radio, give them a medical pack.
Yeah.
Right? Joe has a medic. It's called Doc. It's called Lifeline. They have a radio guy. It's called Dial Tone. It's called Breaker. Cobra doesn't seem to have any communications officer or medical. There is a
Yeah.
perfect role for that. I had to face this when you saw the one I bought at Joe Fest. I bought that convention and paint exclusive of the Cobra, and he was darker. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, sniper. Like,
Yeah.
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 No more 788 his colored things. That comes from our friend 3-star draw on the I know everybody loves it and it does flow, right?
I'm tired of it. Even the Stinger's traditional colors, just everybody that loves that 788 stuff's just awesomely lucky that it matches it, huh? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I
it,
don't, I don't need any more fire team hiss shit.
yeah. Making this little point here, the way that this sits on, just tells you there's future intentions for this coming out the arse, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, the this is the only downside I find of the Stinger that I just wish Wish more money had gone into that. But yeah, no, the Cobra officer, the Cobra Infantry, and everything. When we were kids, I just to close out the thought, were you able to troop build those as kids? Did you even care about troop building as a kid?
I didn't troop build anything as a kid. I didn't even know. I didn't even know the concept of troop building. I did not have. I think the only character like Cobras, the only characters as a kid that I had more than one of was I think I had 2 Crimson Guards and 2 maybe Eels. Like, because if I wasn't buying it with my allowance and I was asking mom for it, my mom knew what I had. My
Oh,
mom's like, "Don't you already have that guy?" And unless he was broken
yeah.
or something, like I didn't get a second one. And most of the time, if I was buying my figures with money I'd earned or birthday money or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to buy the same figure because there were figures I didn't have. I wanted those figures. So troop building to me as a kid, I didn't even know what the hell that was. I thought people that I saw that had multiples of figures, I looked at it like, why you have 2 of those?
Why would you choose to pick?
Yo, what do you want 2 of them for? Like, I've already got him.
Yeah.
That was kind of where I was at when they started doing sub teams and repaints.
For me, it was always a sign of wealth. Really, it was a social status of your play groups, right? Most of us, we were lucky to get the one figure we wanted, and you get one Zartan, one Cobra, one Grunt, one Breaker.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
But your rich buddy, 4 blocks over, you know, he had 12 stormtroopers and 1 Skywalker. He had 7 Cobra Infantry and 2 officers and 2 Hiss tanks, and you're like, yeah, you could waste picks because you can do all that. But we never had a word for it called troop building. We just said,
yeah,
he had money.
Now, even the kid that I went to elementary school with, and we were pretty good friends. We grew apart as we got older, but that's what happens. But when we were in elementary school, he and I played together a lot. He was one of the people we'd spend the night at each other's house. I loved going to that dude's house. He had a freaking awesome house. Now, I don't know what his parents did. They were well off, and he had stuff that he had stuff I didn't even know was out, and not for just G.I. Joe, other toy lines. He's the only person I ever knew that had the skiff in Star Wars.
Oh my God.
He had the indoor playset and all, but even that guy that got everything, like he didn't have a flag, but it's probably just because he didn't want a flag. But even that guy, you still didn't give me one of those Canadian flags. I wanted you to give me one of those little flags.
That'll be coming to you soon, man. But you all want to joke us.
But even that guy didn't have. He only had a couple of figures that he had more than one of. It was the mindset. Really, then it wasn't a thing.
Yeah, we lived in a much more conservative time with toy culture as well, right? Parents would treat you to a big toy at certain occasions, but you weren't buying them on the reg, right?
No.
Like this was a birthday or Christmas if you were a child, not Saturday morning just cuz. Right?
Yeah.
Just cuz.
Yeah. I'd get a vehicle once in a while throughout the year, if my mom was in a particularly good mood when we were at Toys R Us or whatever. But the main stuff, I mean, pretty much the price points back then, like if it was something that was over $15 back then, $18, that was going to be birthday present.
Yeah, exactly. Anything that was in a bigger box than a pair of shoes.
yeah, that's good way. That's a good way to look at it. If it was in a bigger box than a pair of Pumas.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's probably Pumas.
Yes, right.
Maybe some jeans. Oh,
yep.
Yeah, no. So that's gonna sum up the G.I. Joe discussion. I just wanted to draw one thing. I wasn't ignoring it. Darren, you really tripped up old Triple C with your opinions on 788. And I was kind of with you a little bit. I was like, yes, I also really enjoy 788, but I do understand the point. Too much of a good thing happens. Don't believe me? Why don't you ask anyone over 30 why they got sick of Deadpool the first time?
I 788's fine. I think the fire team set is vastly overrated. Buy that figure if you like it. If if you're on the fence, buy a loose range viper. That's really all you need out of that set. I just don't want them to go off on a tangent of another sub team and have feeling like they've got to repaint every damn thing into that sub team, and then all of a sudden we have a Copperhead 788 strike team, or we have a oh look, here's Zorana in the 788 fire team scheme. Like we got enough. If you like them, buy a second fire team set. God knows eventually they're going to be going on clearance. Who knows? Who knows? I might even buy a second one and set the trooper figure on fire for a video. But I don't want any more 788 teams. So give me something else.
So it's just funny because while you were saying that, I was just thinking about, no, there's my fire, by the way. 788, well, it's strange how the Twilight Guard kind of look like they could go with Iron Grenadier or 788. And they are newly generated. Wonder how long that'll go. But Headhunters, Headhunters are another sub team. You might
Headhunters,
some Iron Grenadier reuse there.
Give me Headhunters. Give me Headman. Just leave the don't give him the Robin mask.
Oh God, yeah! Please don't make him look like he killed Roger Rabbit.
That was the worst part about that figure, and I never had that figure, but I bought him later in the early 2000s. I was going back and buying carded versions of some of those guys I never had, and the Headhunter, and I remember seeing him on pegs back in the day, but I was like, this is an awesome looking figure. I just hate that mask. So I had him and I had the Stormtroopers carded, so I never played with them. Okay. But I think that's a sub line you don't even have to go deep into. Like you could put out that dude and the Stormtrooper and maybe one other one, come up with one other one, and that's it. He's just a dude that runs a little small cartel, but I'd like to see him do Headman.
I think we're going to get them one way or the other, but it's how much effort and the actual focus are they going to put into it in trying to pay homage to what the original was like. The original was a controversial platform because they were the enemy of the Joe sub team that they had created for them, which was the DEF, the Drug Enforcement or Drug Elimination Force. And this was a political agenda move meant to support the war on drugs that had been launched by the Reagan administration and onward. It was a really kind of questionable sub-team that had a lot of little rules and boundaries around it. So you're going to deal with a repaint of Mutton Junkyard. You're going to deal with Shockwave. You're going to deal with Bulletproof coming to the line at some point, and maybe getting Cutter out there, which I can fully see now that we have the flare pistol out on dock. Cutter, not. So the Headhunters were the team that these guys were really focused with, and that was an agenda-driven team. If you're going to revisit it now, are you saying that the war on drugs is still the same, or are we going to have to put a little bit of effort into design and giving this whole line a new feel if we do those two things, right? I think they're coming one way or the other. I don't really care, but what I do care is just saying sometimes why you don't see something is because some idiot in the boardroom is really stuck by current events, right? That's why the October Guard aren't here. That's why Hooded Cobra
Commander.
There we go, right? So these things. But it flows into a good question. I'm going to let you answer first. It's going to be the last question we answer for the day. And then I'm going to close things out with telling you guys what's coming up next week. But Triple C asked, if I can find it, what was the biggest vehicle or biggest thing we got? Yeah. What was the biggest Joe thing you got?
I was actually just typing out an answer to that.
We're gonna let it sit out there.
Well, I erased it. So the biggest things that I had, I had the Terradrome, I had the Rolling Thunder, and I had Joe HQ. Although looking back at it, when you look at the Terradrome and the Rolling Thunder, wasn't all that big, but those were the biggest items I had. I didn't have a flag, didn't have a Defiant. I didn't have the mobile command center, mostly because I didn't want it. I probably could have gotten the mobile command center that Christmas, but I had no interest in it. By the time it come out, I'm like, nah, I didn't like it that much. So, I guess Rolling Thunder and Terradrome were probably the biggest items that I ever had. And I'm real seriously considering buying that Terradrome that is or not the Terradrome, that Rolling Thunder that is at that shop that I've been talking about, the Yojo Depot. I'm real close to picking up that Rolling Thunder, and I don't know why. I don't have anywhere to put it, and I don't even collect Real American Hero stuff anymore. But man, just to have that thing again, because it's complete.
Well, and that's actually, I was just dealing with that yesterday. There's a guy here in Ottawa, and now I know it's probably post 2000. It seems to be a more modernized, like O-ring version. I think it's probably Pursuit of Cobra or something. But the Awe Striker with crankcase, I just saw a good deal on that. And I never had the Awe Striker as a kid. My friends all had it. I played with it. I wanted it. It was the coolest thing, but I never got one, right? So I was thinking about buying that, and that would be really my first commitment to going back to O-ring. But just to sit with my Delta 17s, really. But
yeah,
the biggest thing as a kid that I ever got was the hovercraft, the APC troop carrier, and the Sky Striker. I never got any larger sets because my family kind of just set the cap at, he has to be able to put this in a car and take it to a beach, take it to a park, take it somewhere. I was never the kid that went out for the day without a load of toys somewhere to keep me busy. Right.
Yeah.
So you can pack up a Terradome without me like dropping it 1,000 times probably. So
yeah, you could barely the Rolling Thunder was barely transportable. I took it over to Pop Blender's house one time after I got it, and I can't remember if he'd seen it yet or not, but I was going over to play with him. I think I was spending the night, and I took it, and my mom was like, that thing has so many small pieces on it. She's like, you're going to lose something. Well, I'm not. I'll be really careful. But we were going to play Joe's, and I wanted to have it over there because it was awesome, but it was the new, it was the new awesome big thing. And luckily it made it over there and back without losing anything to it. But like, it took up the whole back seat of her car. I think my mom had a 86 4-door Skylark at that time. It took up the whole back seat.
You're lucky. At least you had a backseat. But my family, we grew up with the original Mini Coopers and Volkswagen Rabbits from the 70s and 80s, right? Just like maybe 4 cubic inches more than an old Honda Civic.
Yeah. Did you guys have a convertible Rabbit?
No. There was no coolness to be had in our family. It was a mud brown Rabbit and a piss yellow Rabbit, and both of them
nice.
Yeah. So that, I think that's pretty much where we're going to sum up the nostalgic discussions about those figures today, and just in general what we had as kids. I thank everybody for participating in the chat, and thank you for joining me today. For next week, guys, I'm going to pick the last 3 from the 82 line before we move into 83. So I'm going to give you 3. I'm going to give you 2 figures and a vehicle, and then we're going to move into 1983, and I'll put the votes back up for who we look at then on the next Saturday morning with Crow. I'm hoping to do that next weekend, but with the events as they are, I never know till about Friday if I'm going to.
You could do that. You could do that as a poll on the community tab on your YouTube page.
That's right. Yeah, maybe we'll start doing that. See, this is why I bring in guys to give me good ideas. Right. So we'll do that. what I am gonna end on is I'm gonna let you guys know, and I'm gonna just I'm gonna get Darren, or sorry, Down South 77 to tell me what's coming up on his channel in the week to come, and then I'll tell you what's coming up on mine, and then we'll end it. But if we were to quickly go over your, oh, that was a mute button. I didn't want to do that. If we go over your week, what's your week looking like?
I've just got to I got to get these reviews done. I've got stuff. I got three reviews and one not really review, but thing I want to show off that I was a friend of mine had made for me. I got to get those videos done. Hopefully they'll be done and up by tomorrow night. And I assume we're going to be having Backyard Battlefield this week, but we have not really talked about when or where yet. So that's really all I've got. That's really all I got coming up. I'm just looking forward to getting through this next week because, like I said, the following weekend is Labor Day for us, and I've got a 4-day weekend. So weather's good. I'll be back down at my camper. So that's always a good time unless something breaks or mice get in and devour everything. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, at least we know mice won't eat plastic and they don't eat Joes. We hope. But I know they eat shitty hovercraft hulls when you're trying to build one from scratch. I learned that one. Yeah, so 3-Star mentioned the Backyard Battlefield. We should be having one this Wednesday. I haven't carved anything out. I think it's my turn to host for sure. I think you and Aaron, the Toy Enhancer, have hosted the last few. We'll definitely try and get some info out on that. We just have to touch base with Aaron. I wasn't sure when he was coming back from Texas, but apparently
that's true
now. So we'll coordinate something. We'll start advertising that. Make sure you're following 3-Star Draw, Aaron the Toy Enhancer, and myself, not just here on YouTube, but on Insta, on Facebook, because sometimes we'll put information up there as to what's coming up. And the guys in the chat, Model Misfits, Triple C, Bobby Wold, Son of Crowns, everybody seems to have a channel these days. So click on the guy and make sure you're following each other in the chats too, because a lot of you guys' channels is exactly what we bring to the table, but with your unique perspectives. And man, do we ever enjoy that. For myself, coming up, my most immediate videos, of course, are going to be the Torch review that I have, finishing off things like the Night Force Shockwave and his RAM, Tiger Force 2-pack. But I'm also, as I'm finishing off Grievance's Crimson Punisher prize package and everything, one thing I was talking to Punk about was when we talked about the Vanguard, I was saying how simple dry brushes are and things like that. And I've started putting a video together about dry brushing weapons and doing your own custom weapons for your characters and how they can kind of make the difference on your Joes, on your collection when you paint your own guns. So I'll do a quick little video on how I brought these up from just plain plastic to this. And you'll see some of these weapons we joke about being from Dollar General, but they're actually some of the cheapest weapons you can get. But if you put a little paint on them, you can have some fun, and I'll show you some fun hacks to do that stuff.
I'm interested in that video. Are you going to go as in depth as how to mix and thin the paint when you do that?
I can definitely do that. I definitely show you what I'm putting on my brush and the considerations.
That's what stopped me has stopped me from trying that. Yeah. Is because I don't know how to mix the paint up.
Well, okay, so it all started at Joe Fest when we talked to our friend John over at Top Fun Retro Toys 3D, and he's been on a live, and I bought this gun from him. All right, now I paid for it. It was a 3D print, and I was happy to pay for it. Loved it. But then I started realizing we can do this like ourselves. So doing little dry brushes on 3D print and washes and things like that. I did do a video. I'll show you that stuff. But I'm going to show you a variety of different ways to do these things to kind of correct your Joe line so that you don't always deal with the plain black if you don't want to. Because we all kind of like our guns, don't we?
Well, that's one thing I say in a lot of my videos when I look at figures. This gun's okay, but I wish they'd have hit it with a couple paint apps.
Yeah. I'm getting a call, guys. That is the spouse, so I got to let you guys go. Thanks very much for joining us, Darren. I'll see you backstage. The rest of you guys, make sure you're watching and following, and we'll talk to you very soon. All right?
See you guys.
Yeah.